Banescale Fellowship is seeking Ashlanders to fill our ranks. Check out our website at banescalefellows.engine.com. Welcome to Scrollplay, the Elder Scrolls Roleplay Show. I'm your host, the Human Floyd, but you can just call me Floyd. We will be looking at Halorin's DM RP system, and as always, we'll have our featured character and a character exercise. There's a Thieves Guild starting up, which is awesome, so you should check out the thread. There is a link to it in the description below, or you can contact at Professor Pepperjack, which is such a cool handle. I love the Thieves Guild, and I'm really excited to see them finally show up on the roleplay scene. Coming up on October 25th, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, is the Extra Life event. This is an amazing event started by the Children's Miracle Network to help sick kids. Gamers like you and me can get involved and do something good. So here's a clip from their video explaining the event.
Victoria passed away on January 21st, 2008. After a 4-year battle with leukemia, failed bone marrow transplants, and fungal infections.
It was as a result of Tori's death, sitting at her funeral, that I made up my mind that I needed to be doing this, not just a couple days a year with a radiothon, that I needed to be doing this with my life.
Doc wanted to do something special for Victoria, in memory of Victoria. And he came up with a fundraiser called Extra Life. And this fundraiser would be for the gaming community.
It just occurred to me that gamers should be able to do the things they love to help sick and injured kids as well. And so Extra Life was born. 1,200 gamers showed up on October 15th in 2008.
With this year's Extra Life Gaming Marathon, we're helping save kids' lives. You don't even have to be a crime-fighting superhero.
Each and every year afterwards, it continued to grow. Gamers responded by being able to game for their local hospitals. The next year, 4,500 gamers showed up, raised almost $500,000. The year after that, it was 15,000 gamers raising $1 million, and the next year, 17,000 gamers raising $2.1 million.
Then in 2013, over 40,000 gamers came together to raise over $4 million.
Video games are like the #1 form of entertainment on planet Earth, have been now for quite a while.
Anyone could be involved in Extra Life.
Gamers aren't that pale kid in mom and dad's basement. They're mom and dads, they're aunts and uncles.
A young child to an older adult to a grandparent.
You can take all that fun of playing games for 24 hours and reach out to your friends and bring them to your environment.
Or if you want to play a board game, a card game.
The funds that Extra Lifers raise can go to a variety of purposes in the local area at the local hospital.
So maybe your extra $20 or your extra $50 goes to curing 87% of children with leukemia.
It might buy an isolette for a baby that is born the size of a cell phone and has to fight for its life.
I can guarantee you that that money goes directly back to these children to keep this from happening again to someone else's child.
Getting involved with Extra Life is really simple. You just have to go to the website at extra-life.org, put in a few details in there, join a team if you'd like to, or create one. After that, it's as simple as fundraising with your friends and family. Let them know why you are doing this. They should know that the money you raise is going to stay local in your community.
We never will truly lose Victoria because she will live for all of us through this.
It started with a little girl in Orange, Texas.
to say for today.
All we have to say today. So
we'll see
see
you
you
tomorrow
later
at
on
news at
whatever time it is.
at Victoria's house. Bye.
I'll be joining forces with the OPcast guys on the 25th, and we will be streaming ESO for 24 hours straight. It's going to be a marathon. You can go to TSORP's Extra Life team page to donate or sign up. So I hope to see a lot of you guys there. I think it's a really cool thing, and we're going to have a bunch of fun with it. And one of the things we'll be streaming is the Vice Canon interview roleplay event, which is something that my guild, the Banescale Fellowship, is putting on. We are looking for someone to roleplay as the Nord Vice Canon in our storyline. The Vice Canons are representatives of their races for the Pact in Stormhold Shadowfen. There's more details on that on the Tesso RP thread that I started, and there's a description to that as well in the description below. So if you are interested, please show up, and if you think your character is Nordy enough to be a potential Vice Canon, let me know. We're also looking for people to play as Argonian Treeminders and Elders to help decide who the final Vice Canon will be. And now I have a recording of Halorin teaching me how to use his DM RP system. His spreadsheet is a dice roller for role-playing events. Personally, I've always gone with the classic emote combat in which players get to decide whether or not their character gets hit. And many people have had bad experiences with this because a lot of people don't really want their character to get hurt, and even more people don't want their character to lose. I think role players have gotten a lot better about that over the years. It seems like the RP community has kind of grown up together a bit, and a lot of us have gotten older, so I was a little bit hesitant to even look at the DMRP system because I was comfortable with normal emote combat, and so far I've had overall good experiences with it in ESO, but ever since using it, I have fallen in love with his system, and I want to share it with you all. I think that it's really useful, and it's a ton of fun to play with.
So the first thing that I do is I make a DM line, and that will become apparent for why later. So I'll just make 4 characters and give them random names. I'll also make some NPCs.
So when you type NPC in that line, then it asks you for the character name?
Yeah, you can actually bulk create NPCs. So like you type in the name of like the group, and then it'll ask you to put in a number. So I hit 5, and then the spreadsheet will automatically make 5 bandits.
Sweet. Very nice.
Okay, so then it processes the character list. So what I usually do is, like, I'll make the NPCs and stuff all ahead of time and then hide the rows just so, you know, I have it all prepared.
Oh, yeah.
When the actual event starts. But all of the writing in RP takes place in the game, and the DM would use DM brackets that are designated, like, left bracket, DM, right bracket, and then put the RP content within those. And they will write, like, you know, the description of the environment, depending on whatever the scene's supposed to be. They'll write out the descriptions of the NPCs. So in this instance, you know, like, I'd write something like, this is where these 4 characters are at, and then they come across these 5 bandits.
Okay.
Combat can be done in a sort of, you know, free-to-post kind of environment, or you can do what I call active turn posting. And what that means is the DM will designate certain people that will be able to make attack attempts, but even if your attack call isn't up, you're still able to write emotes of your character moving around or talking, or writing responses to, like, attacks made on them. And that kind of, like, it keeps all the scene, like, together in an organic way. Like, earlier versions of this had everyone post all their stuff once their turn came up, And it became really clunky because if you had a lot of people and your turn wasn't up, you just kind of sat there. And that was time that could be spent having you write out stuff to involve yourself in the scene. So, like, if you were the 6th person down, then, like, you'd have to write all your defense stuff and attacks, like, once your turn came up. And then chronologically, it'd be really weird because your character would, like, write a defense to something that happened 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. So it's not, you don't do it, like, the combat is turn-based, but the emotes are not?
Right.
Okay.
So I've actually made it really easy for the DM to kind of control the flow. So on the DM line, the DM would say, all right, I want the first 3 players to attack. So they go to the DM line, they type in the word action, and then they put in the number that they want to have. In this case, I hit 3. So the spreadsheet will find the next 3 players, and then it'll post this block. You'll see that it's on the recent roll log and also on the DM line. And the DM just copies and pastes this into the game.
Oh, okay.
So Billy, Bob, and Jimmy would say, oh, it's my turn to attack, so let me write an attack attempt, and then I'll go to the spreadsheet and type in whatever my action's going to be. So Billy would presumably in game write, like, Billy's going to go attack bandit.1. They would write that emote in the game, and then they would come here to the spreadsheet, and they would type in attack bandit.1. So the spreadsheet will roll a 3d6, and then it automatically rolls a 3d6 for the NPC that's being attacked, and then it posts the results. So I had put a -3 modifier on all these NPCs, so their result was a 9, so they got hit.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
So when an NPC gets hit, the DM has one of 2 choices. They can either start writing up an emote of, like, what kind of damage the, attack has done. So, like, if it was a sword attack and it was successful, like, the DM could write, like, oh, the sword, cuts into the guy's side and he's kind of bleeding and stuff. Like, however the DM wants to do it. But if they're ready for that NPC to die, they can go to the DM line and type in KB space and the name of the NPC. And what this does is it will clear out the NPC that's in question and then gives this text to copy and paste into the game. So basically that means that that bandit.1 is going to die. And Billy would write a second emote of their character killing that NPC. So this has a 2-pronged effect in that it allows a player to better involve themselves in the scene because they get to write out the actions, of both their character and the NPC being killed, so they can kind of put their own flair to it. And it also takes some of the workload off of the DM because they're not writing the death of that NPC. Once they've said, all right, bandit.1's going to die, they in effect don't really have to worry about them from a DM standpoint because Billy's going to write an emote saying that bandit.1's going to die.
Nice.
Something that I really like about this spreadsheet is that because there is no health point system really, you can just arbitrarily decide, like, all right, I want these bandits to take 2 points of damage before they die. So then whoever lands that point, you just type in KB and then they die.
Nice. So essentially the purpose of the spreadsheet is just to decide if you hit or not.
Yeah. The only real severity degree is if an attack roll is at least double the defense roll, then it'll count as a critical hit.
Okay.
So that would do 2 points of damage to an NPC. Players can be critical hit as well, and it'll take 2 points of energy off of their character, but they still have 1 damage point. And I can kind of explain how that works in a second. But yeah, there's no health point system. It's kind of like you said, to detect, to kind of say, like, does this attack land or not? But the writing is still very much the focus of these DM events.
I like it. That's cool.
There aren't any, like, hardline mechanics to be like, oh, well, I'm a level 8, like, whatever. So in that, there's some, in a player versus player scenario, there's kind of the assumption that both people fighting are on somewhat the same level, because at the end of the day, like, they're both rolling 3d6. For NPCs, you can kind of give them levels, so to speak, by putting the modifiers on. Like you saw, I put -3 and all these on all their rolls, so the chance of them getting hit is going to increase, or the chance of their attacks missing is going to increase because they have this negative modifier.
Now, let's say if I wanted to be like, well, my character's like severely wounded or something, could I put a negative modifier on my own character?
No. And this is, I'll show you why. That can kind of be reflected, it's automatically reflected in the system. So I'm going to arbitrarily put that Bob has 3 energy points. So when Bob goes to attack Bandit.2, you'll see that it put the -4 modifier on there automatically. So if your energy is between 4 and 5, you roll at a -2 consistently. If your energy goes 3 or below, then you roll at a -4. So in that, that's how you could IC-ly represent that your character's severely injured.
Okay, nice. That's cool.
So I'll create an instance where someone gets hit. So I'll put just for the sake of showing it. So
as a buff bandit.
Yeah. Yeah. So in this scenario, you know, Bob goes to make his attack and it misses. So the DM would write an emote to that effect saying that it misses. And then Jimmy would make their attack as well. And then once all the status bars aren't green anymore, that signals to the DM like, all right, everyone that I've called to make an attack or a heal has done something, so now I can make a DM post. Okay. So while these players are writing their emotes and going to the spreadsheet, I, as a DM, pretty much am playing like catch. Like, I'll look at the spreadsheet and be like, all right, so Bandit.1 got hit, so I'll put a KB on him. I don't have to write anything. Bandit.2 got a miss, so I got to write an emote saying that they missed. Bandit.3 got a miss, so I have to write that too. And also during that time, I'll write like, you know, what maybe Bandit.4 and .5 are going to do, or stuff that's going on in the environment. I, as a DM, am pretty much always writing something at some point. And that kind of keeps the momentum of the event going, because a lot of the dead space of people writing can be condensed with the system. So there's always something for someone to read.
Nice.
Like, if your attack is up, you're writing your attack emote and you're going to the spreadsheet, so you're doing something. If your character gets attacked, you're going to the spreadsheet and writing an emote based off of that, whether it's your turn to attack or not. So in that, the DM can kind of stagger it so everyone is writing something each DM post, whether they're attacking or defending. And that, it really speeds up these events and allows the combat to be a pretty organic and consistently moving thing.
Nice.
For defense, so, you know, Jimmy has his miss, so the DM would write an emote saying like, all right, Bandit.2 and .3 avoid their attacks in whatever way that, you know, it's going to be written. Bandit.4 attacks Jimmy. And Bandit.5 attacks Billy. Like, you know, whatever the DM wants them to do.
Right.
So after they close out the DM brackets, the DM goes back to the spreadsheet, and then they type in attack or action and the number of people that they want to have called again. So the spreadsheet is intelligent enough to kind of cycle through the players regardless of where they're at on the spreadsheet. So like you saw that it, you know, the human Floyd, and then it went back up to the top for Billy and Bob.
Oh, okay. So it starts back down at the bottom then.
Yeah. So it'll scroll through automatically for you. So, you know, then the DM will kind of repeat the process where they'd copy this new action bracket and then post it into the game to signify those 3 people can make their attacks.
Okay.
In the DM post, I said that Bandit.4 attacked Jimmy. So even though he's not attacking this round. He's still engaged because he has to write a defense to this attack. So the player, Jimmy, would go to the spreadsheet and type in defend bandit.4. And what the spreadsheet does is it first has bandit.4 roll an attack. And then it will roll your defense.
Okay, nice.
So Jimmy just got really low, really lucky and rolled a 16 against the 15. But you know, it actually doesn't really reflect what I wanted to show. But I mean, I guess that kind of shows the somewhat random nature of this. But what I really like about the fact that the NPC attacks first is that you can't really game the system. Like, you'll know if your energy is down to like 4 or 3, and you'll know that you'll roll at a negative modifier, but you have no idea what the NPC's roll is going to be. So the question isn't, can I beat the number that I see there? It's, do I want my character to be hit by that attack?
Yeah.
And it puts you in the mindset where you just have to think about the IC ramifications of your character being hit, and it takes the focus of there being a system behind the RP away.
Yeah, totally.
So, just for the sake of presentation, I'll have bandit.4 attack again, because I want Jimmy to get hit so I can show you what happens. So it'll roll another one. He's not so lucky this time. So what happens is the player gets hit, and you'll see that their energy automatically went down 1. And then they took a damage point. Players, the maximum amount of energy that they have will be 10 minus the amount of damage that they've taken. A player can only take at most 3 points of damage. So if they have 3 points of damage and they're hit, their energy will go down, but the cap will still be at 3.
Okay.
Where the energy points come into play is, I'll attack for you. When you go to attack, you can spend 1 or 2 energy points, and you do that by putting 1E or 2E on your action line. So you'll see you went from 10 to 8 energy because I spent 2 energy points, and it put a positive modifier of 6. So it'll give you +3 for each point. So how I represent this is, like, if my character does something fancy using like lightning or something, to kind of like increase the strength of his attack, I'll represent that here in the system by spending energy points.
Nice, that's very cool.
So it kind of becomes strategic where it's like, I really don't want my character to be hit by that, so I'm going to spend energy points to try to avoid it. But I know once I spend too many energy points, I'm going to start rolling at a negative modifier. So, you kind of have to balance that out. I feel like it represents someone's overall combat effectiveness in a somewhat organic way without there being a lot of like restriction that comes with a more hard-coded system.
Yeah, I like how like open this system feels. It feels like it's not like hindering the role play at all.
Yeah, it's specifically to support the role play and keep the free form feel of RP and combat, but giving it an impartial third party to kind of express the likelihood of an attack landing, and B, representing the overall state of someone in combat.
Yeah.
So to kind of show how you get energy back, there's a setting in the spreadsheet that once it goes through a full player rotation, everyone gets 1 energy point back.
Oh, okay.
So that automatically happens. Like, you'll see Bob is at 4 now.
Right.
I had him at 3.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
So another thing that you can do is you can write an emote saying like your player is going to catch their breath or something like that. So then Bob will write an emote saying like they did something to try to, increase their combat effectiveness. So then he would go to the spreadsheet and type in rest. What rest does is it rolls a 1d3, and then you get that much energy back.
Oh, okay.
It'll still keep the cap in mind, so if he had 2 points of damage, the most he could have is 8 still. So even if he got up to 9, it would automatically put him at 8. But you'll also see that it put the ACT thing on their status column.
So he can't do anything else.
Well, what happens is when he goes to attack, it will put a -2 modifier because he's taking a moment in combat to like try to get his breath back.
Like orient himself or whatever. Yeah.
Right. So that kind of is how it's represented IC. So it'll actually be a -4 because he has 5 energy and then he used he rested. So, but then the ACT goes away. So he actually kind of lucked out by
nice.
He rolled on the left anyway.
Yeah.
But it just kind of gives it, I feel, a pretty accurate sense of how combat goes.
Yeah.
The damage and stuff is still all done, in an IC freeform sense, but the spreadsheet just kind of represents like, well, if your character's taking the time to catch their breath or do something to, orient themselves, like you said, they're going to be briefly distracted. So their next attack or defense is going to reflect that.
Totally.
So the other thing someone can do when their action is called is they can heal. And this is something that you can spend energy points on. But you'll see that once it gets going, it'll remove the action line because that's your action. And it healed Bob for 1 because again, it'll roll a 1d3 and it'll add that number. And you'll also see that I don't think Bob got hit, but if you're healed, you lose a damage point.
Okay, nice.
So if Jimmy got healed, he'd go down to 0 and he'd get his energy back.
Okay, so it gives you energy back as well as taking away damage.
Right.
Okay.
It's kind of a two-pronged thing. And something that I think is cool about this spreadsheet as well is that most systems, from what I've seen in my research, it kind of focuses on attacking and defending. So if your character isn't really one to attack by nature, you're not really represented well in systems like that. But let's say Billy is just a healer. All they do is support people. So when their action comes up, like you saw, like you can heal people and you can actually do AoE heals to spend, and you spend energy points to heal more than one person. So like I could have typed in heal AoE Bob, Jimmy, the Human Floyd, and then whatever he rolled, everyone would have gotten.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
And then it just costs more energy points to do that.
Nice. So if I wanted to like say that more bandits came to help them out, could I just throw them on there?
Yep.
Nice.
So that actually kind of segues into the other thing that I wanted to show you. So I created something called Swarm NPCs. And what it is pretty much a cluster of NPCs. So these columns here, the C column represents the difficulty of the group. The E column represents the quantity of NPCs in that group. So bandits.1 is in an IC sense for bandits. So I'll put like a 1 modifier there. So I'll have you attack them. The spreadsheet will say, oh, this is a swarm NPC that I'm attacking. So instead of rolling the normal 3d6, I will roll a 1d4. And the way the formula works is it's your roll minus the difficulty of the NPC group will equal how many people you kill.
Oh, so it's like auto kill.
Right. So if you attack a swarm that has more than one person in it, you lose an energy point because it takes a lot of effort to attack a bunch of people. So you rolled a 4, and there was a 1 defense modifier, so you'll look at the recent roll log, and it says KB3. That means you get to kill 3 people, and there's 1 NPC remaining in that cluster.
Oh, I see.
So the progression would be your action call comes up, you write an emote saying you're going to go attack these bandits. You go to the spreadsheet, you type in attack in the name of the swarm, and then it says, oh, you killed 3. So you would go back to the game and write another emote of your character killing 3 bandits.
Nice.
And what's really cool about the swarm NPCs is that it allows a lot of NPCs to be involved in a scene where there really isn't a lot of overhead for what the DM has to do to write them. So basically, like I'll create another one really quick.
And with that modifier, you could decide if it's like a weak swarm, like.
Right.
That's cool.
So I mean, it doesn't have to be 4. Like you can put, a group of 3 that have a difficulty of 3, so like they're really hard to kill, and you kind of have to spend energy points to kill them. So the DM could say like, all right, Bandits.2 is going to attack Billy and Bob. So Billy and Bob will go to the spreadsheet and be like, all right, I need to defend against Bandits.2. And the swarm will automatically roll a 3d6 for Billy, and then it rolls your defense. So you'll see Billy got hit, so he actually loses 2 points of energy.
Oh.
Because a swarm hitting you and a boss NPC hitting you will do more damage.
Totally.
Well, it does more energy from a system standpoint. It does more energy damage, but you still only take 1 damage point.
Gotcha.
So all the DM had to do in this case is say Bandits.2 attacks Billy and Bob. And then Billy goes to the spreadsheet, types in defense, they see that they got hit. And then it's up to Billy to decide how their character got hit. But they're writing the overhead of that part of the DM process is on the player and not the DM. Because all you really have to do is decide or describe the nature of the swarm, what weapons or attacks that they would use. And then you just kind of point them at players. You say like, all right, this swarm's attacking these people, and that's it from a DM standpoint, because then the player will write the result of that. And when the player goes to attack an NPC, you literally aren't typing anything because the player goes to the spreadsheet to find out how many NPCs they've killed.
Nice.
So you can have like 25 NPCs, and all you kind of do is sitting back and pointing the swarms at the different people.
Nice. That seems really manageable.
Yeah, so I've been able to have like really large events where, provided everyone has a good understanding of the system, it goes really smoothly because the DM can kind of control the flow of the attacks by, doing action and the number of players. So he's like, all right, I know only 3 attacks are going to be coming in at a time, so I'm not going to be overwhelmed. Like I can put the number to whatever I want as the DM. And then if there's a bunch of swarms, then you're really not doing a whole lot besides pointing them around. So that gives you time to write things about the environment and, stuff happening. So you can kind of really flesh out the scene.
Totally. Wow, I like this. I'm looking forward to using it.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the result of I do a lot of DM events, and I just wanted to try to find a way that helped me DM the way that I DM. I'm sure there are other ways to do it. But for me, I wanted to try to keep it pretty light and keep it focused on the writing, and also take as much of the calculation and workload from a technical standpoint off the DM.
Yeah.
So as far as the spreadsheet goes, the DM is really only creating the players at the beginning, creating the NPCs, setting a modifier, and making the action calls and the KB commands that let people know when to kill NPCs. But past that, they're just focused on the writing. They never have to worry about, the rolling part of it.
Yeah. Very nice. So, how does it work for players fighting each other? Pretty much just the same thing?
Yeah. Like I'll have Billy the Healer's now going to attack Bob. So it rolls a 3d6, and it doesn't automatically roll a defense because I wanted the player to have the choice of spending energy and stuff like that.
Totally, yeah.
So that does give the defending player, knowledge of the number. But I think it's a fair trade-off.
Yeah.
So then you'll see it handles it, it's intelligent enough to know what kind of player is attacking and defending. So the attack was a 5, and the defense was an 11, so it's a counter. So you'll see that Billy went from 6 to 5, and then now he has 2 damage points because he got hit.
Yeah. Nice.
So Bob would write an emote, not only, you know, writing the successful evasion of the attack, but they would write an attempted counterattack with the out-of-character understanding to know that that's going to land. And it's really important to write it as an attempt because it allows, in a player versus player sense, it allows the player being countered to still have control over how much damage their character takes. And in an NPC sense, it still allows the DM to control how much damage the counter does.
So when you get countered, so like Bob would write his defense and then his counterattack out in the game, and then Billy would write gets hit by Bob's spear or whatever, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Cool.
Like, it was really important for me to not try to forcefully impose serious damage on people's players, or, like, their characters. Most of the people that, like, I've never run into a situation where someone's, like, kind of god-modded these and refused to have their character take a lot of damage. But I just didn't feel comfortable being like, well, your character's, like, going to get mortally wounded here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's still ultimately left to the player how much damage that they do.
Nice. I love that because, like, I think that's one of the things a lot of people, one of the problems a lot of people have with systems like this is they feel like it takes away their control of their own character as a writer.
Yeah, I really wanted to avoid that, and by not having, like, a hard-coded, you know, health point system, I think really allows for that kind of free-form environment without forcing things on people.
So then, does that mean it's pretty much up to Billy to decide what that 2 means? Like,
yeah.
What's the point, other than, I guess it's just for the dice modifiers mostly then, is the damage, right?
Yeah. And like I said, it's kind of an honor system thing. Like, even though the damage caps at 3, if your character's gotten hit 5 times, it makes logical sense that your character's going to be pretty beat up. And most of the time, players are, you know, cognizant of that, and it's not really a problem because most people, you know, have a good understanding of how RP combat works in general. Like I said, I wanted the writing in the RP to be the main focus, so there really isn't much of a health representation or forced mandate. But people, you know, kind of know how to accommodate that in their writing.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing this in action. Your event is like 15 minutes ago.
Yeah. I just wanted to completely explain it all, though.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, sweet. Is there anything else that you think you need to go over before the event?
Not really. That covers probably, I'd say, 85% of how the system works. The only other things that are really in the system are you can do what are called check rolls, and that rolls a 1d20. And what I use it for as a DM is just like, if someone tries to unlock a door or something, I as a DM will say, like, well, roll a check for that. And then they'll roll a 1d20, and that kind of gives me a guide on how successful they are or are not. So I thought it was important to have something like that. So I use it a lot for, like, being able to sense things with magicka and, you know, stuff like that. Or I'll say, like, this boss tries to root everybody's feet with ice, so roll a check, and if you get double digits, then you avoid it, but if you don't, then your character gets rooted to the ground, and you have to write that accordingly. Stuff like that. I mean, it can be used for anything.
Like, if somebody was rooted as the DM, could I arbitrarily go in and take away some energy from them or something like that?
Yeah, if you wanted to.
Nice.
I mean, if you wanted it to be an attack, the spreadsheet will automatically roll numbers for each person. It's best to space it out as far as bunching it up, but I've tried to code it in such a way where it's kind of error-proof, so if 3 people all defended against the same NPC, they should all get individual 3d6 rolls from, you know, the same NPC, and it'll just behave accordingly. So, I mean, that's kind of your choice as the DM for what you want to do.
If you want to see the system in action, you can check out this link right here. And if you want to get your hands on it, which why wouldn't you, you can get a hold of Halorin in-game or on Engine. There are a couple features, namely assists and siphon attacks, which I didn't have time to fit into this video, but they're pretty straightforward, and on the DMRP system there's a tab on the bottom called Info that has all the information you need. Now, let's check out our featured character.
County Skingrad, once a peaceful area of Cyrodiil, now ravaged by civil war and foreign invasions. This was the birthplace of Atalos Lauren, the son of a woodcutter and a simple town girl. Atalos was raised by his father on the family lumber mill. His adolescence was spent learning the family business until he grew old enough to set out on his own and travel down the long roads of the imperial province. When Emperor Leovic of the Reachman dynasty legalized Daedra worship, Duke Varen Aquilarius of Coral led a rebellion against the Empire. Eager to partake of the spoils of war, a 19-year-old Atalos joined under the banner of Aquilarius. When the last of the Longhouse emperors was overthrown, and Varen became the new leader of Cyrodiil, Atalos returned to home in Skingrad, hoping that his coin and service to the Empire would please his father. But the lumber mill was empty. He heard whispers that his father had begun cutting too close to Valenwood, and angered the Wood Elves. This rough, decisive Imperial has since traveled deep into the lands of the Aldmeri Dominion, hoping to someday find his father. Atalos is a hard-working, reliable, and adventurous man. He can be heavy-handed, but war has taught him not to act without first thinking things through. However, his impatience and quick temper can get him into trouble with dealing with other people, and in more delicate matters. He is rather inflexible and single-minded. I chose Atalos because he has an interesting backstory that very much fits into the timeline of ESO. He has a set goal which will probably lead him to some very interesting RP in the future. It seems difficult to find a reason for an Imperial character to exist in the Aldmeri Dominion, but Atalos' reason seems very legitimate. Good job on this character.
Alright, on to the character exercise. I had a lot of fun reading everyone's responses. The question was, what is your character doing while you're not role-playing them? I got a ton of responses to this one, which makes me happy, but I don't have time to show all of them, which makes me sad. Many of these responses are sort of just day-to-day stuff that you would expect to see in Tamriel, but I think it's good to remember that a lot of our characters have normal lives outside of the crazy roleplay that happens. So our first response here comes from Kati, and she says that her character is cleaning, cooking, reading, practicing magic, begging for pets, sleeping in trees, drinking heavily, quietly crying into her pillow about being Khajiit, filing her claws, worshipping the Almsivi, etc. Protector Magi says her character Elisha Lacour, I butchered that, is either trapped in portal limbo, hiding, or otherwise plotting evil things. Her locations vary wildly. One of her other characters, Cirrus Mayun, is sitting in a house in Shornhelm, keeping to herself and feasting on Montclair bad guys when the hunger for blood comes to her. Halorin says, the Halorin persona is dropped, and Ran either tends to his family trade business, or he's trying to work on rebuilding a relationship with his family. He's probably also doing no shortage of research on soul magic and Daedric Magicka sources. Aendale would be found relaxing near his home, reading, playing music, or writing in his journal. Most likely, he would be found doing these while perched on his favorite branch. Pigeon's character, Aelmail, I hope I pronounced that right, is painting, most likely, and doing his damn best not to give in and set all of Aradon ablaze. I can only hope he's not talking to anyone and displaying his social skills. Season Shadow is a prolific writer. When he's not writing in his journal or concocting new riddles to bug tavern patrons with, he is working on his book on the practical applications of healing in a professional setting. Adelric Adonson says, I like to think my character Adelric spends his time, while I myself am away, either traveling or making ends meet. His blacksmithing skills are much lesser than that of his fighting skills. Assisting a local blacksmith in his craft might help him earn his meals during placid times. Similarly so, I could see Adelric sparring, grooming, or bathing, or honing his own equipment. And our last one comes from Mavic. When she's not online, Mavic is always up to no good. Sometimes I just can't bear to think about what she actually does in her free time. After the fall of the Empire and being wanted for some time, she has gone on somewhat of a rampant killing spree. Sometimes, though, it is best for characters to sort of fade into darkness and become refreshed, so I am excited to see what is in store. Her other character, Bridget, is, of course, probably sitting by the creek drunk. And my next character exercise question is, where do you draw inspiration from for your character? It could be someone from a movie, somebody you know in real life, or anything else really. Sometimes I'll watch videos of snakes to inspire my emotes for my Argonian character, Utek Ja. Looking forward to the responses. Thanks for watching as always, and I hope to see you guys on the 25th for the Extra Life event. Peace.